And happy Wednesday to everybody in the world out there. My name is Sam, and with me, as always, I've got Ross and Zeb. Gentlemen, happy Wednesday.
Good day, sir.
And not only is it Wednesday, it is the Seahawks Fan Table Podcast Day, and thank you for everyone checking us out, whether you're online at hawkscast.com, on Twitter at Seahawks Podcast, or on SoundCloud or Facebook at Seahawks Fan Table. Thank you very much. But, gentlemen, we got a win, so positive signs, right?
Absolutely.
It's funny. Ross gives the most ironic woohoo ever because it was really like you know, if we didn't win this game, it was going to be bad, and we pulled it through. So good jobs to the Seahawks.
Another week of not being on the ledge.
Yeah, I mean they got one foot kind of like dangling over and kind of balancing act. A strong breeze might push them one way or the other. So we'll see how it goes.
It wasn't a very momentous game, though, was it?
I think what happens is whenever you have, and it's similar to the Cardinals game, whenever you have them score a meaningless touchdown in the final waning seconds of the fourth quarter, it makes the game look a lot closer than it was. So, credit the other team for scoring finally, but obviously the opportunity for them to actually be in the game was decided, well before that, especially with the way Seattle was playing down the stretch. So I think that was positive. I mean, it's a team that they were supposed to beat. They really didn't have a lot of trouble, but they didn't score early, which I think probably led to some concern.
Well, they've never scored early as far as I can ever remember in my life.
I don't know. I mean, they've had like two of their games where they've scored points in like the first quarter.
That's just awful. You can't do that all season long, can you?
This team might, but the Seahawks returned to Sunday Night Football. They're taking on the number one team in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 10-1. The Seahawks opened the betting line as a home dog for the first time in 5 years. So the last time that they were a home underdog in CenturyLink was in 2012 against the New England Patriots. That's the UMAD game, bro.
That has to be a sign, right?
It has to be a sign. But we don't have Richard Sherman, so I'm not sure who's going to be that guy. Probably Bobby Wagner, because that guy's been playing amazing.
Lights out.
That interception that he had was unreal. Like, I kind of wish that the guy, the wide receiver, he basically just stole the ball from, like, just flailed a little bit more dramatically. Bobby might have been untouched, and that would have been like the most amazing touchdown ever.
Yeah, it was very Matrixy.
But that Ross, that's the kind of play you're always asking for, especially from a guy like an Earl Thomas and a Bobby Wagner, a Michael Bennett, or Richard Sherman.
Got to make the star plays. That's why they're stars. They can't make the name early in the career and then just kind of coast. I mean, not that they're coasting, but you need the big plays.
Speaking of stars, the Seahawks did not give a sack offensively due to Russell Wilson's escapeability, but also the offensive line was actually credited with solid protection. So
the offensive line was not nearly as offensive.
I mean, Russell Wilson bailed them out on multiple sacks. Not necessarily because it was the offensive line's fault, but he just juked people out of their shoes.
There was one play that was clearly should have been a sack, and like right guard just didn't touch the guy, and the guy came straight at Russell Wilson, got to Wilson just as the ball was getting to him, and he still didn't get the sack. So I mean,
yeah, I think that was Brock Coyle that basically tripped in front of Wilson, and then he just ran away.
That was hilarious.
Kam Chancellor has officially been put on the IR, so his season has come to an end. We talked about that briefly last week. And reports right now are that he's still interested in coming back. So this is much different from the news that Earl Thomas provided when he went down for the year last year, where he was actively questioning retirement after the game. Whereas
he wasn't.
I typically don't buy it.
That was Earl being Earl, right?
It's Earl being Earl, but like at the same time, if he's willing to say that, there has to be a small portion that he says that that's what he believes. Doesn't mean that he acts upon it, but it's in his mind process somewhere, right?
It reminds me of like when I was maybe 16 or 17, I got in my first car accident. It wasn't bad or anything, but I was like, I'm never driving again. That's it. I'm never driving again. It wasn't actually.
When you wake up with a super bad hangover, I'm never drinking again. Of course, you say it at the moment, but you don't mean it.
Right. So I mean, like, I don't think there's even like a part of them that really, really thought it. I never bought that for a second. But there's a difference though with Kam Chancellor. With Kam Chancellor, like that's him saying he wants to come back. He wants to. It's going to be another question in this case whether like he's ever going to get medical clearance.
Yeah, the injury between Earl Thomas and Kam Chancellor are night and day. They're so far removed from each other. There's really
Kam Chancellor doesn't even need surgery, right? He doesn't need surgery. There's just narrowing of the spinal column. There's nerve damage. There's almost nerve damage. It's all that kind of 15 years of abuse, and the last 10 of it as a pro and near pro, and at that heavy weight that he carries and hitting other people. So do the physics and do the math, and it's not going to be good, man. Like I said, once you do the MRI and you're 30 years old almost, you're screwed.
Yeah. And speaking about the Seahawks future, the Seahawks start a 5-game stretch where they faced 4 quality opponents. It's home against the Eagles, then it's at Jacksonville that got moved to a 1:25 start, so the Seahawks do not have any 10 a.m. starts this year, which is amazing.
Woo-hoo! Not even sarcastic.
Then they come home play the Rams, I want to say, at home, and then they play on the road on Christmas Eve around about there against Dallas, and then you finish the year off at home against the Cardinals. So 5 of those games, 3 of them are winning teams. Cardinals and the Cowboys, I wouldn't say those are gimme games because those teams are not very good, but the Cowboys look very different if they have their left tackle, Sean Lee, their middle linebacker, and Ezekiel Elliott. But they might not play. But they might not play depending on how much they are out of it, because a lot of people have expressed that Dak Prescott would be as good. Ross, you've seen the frustration of Dak Prescott because of a trade that we made in fantasy. I don't think either of us expected to turn out the way it did.
So lame. Keenan Allen is just blowing things up because I traded him to you, and then I get Dak Prescott, and he's not scored. He's not even thrown for 200 yards since. That's awesome. Yeah. Hasn't thrown a touchdown in 3 games, 5 interceptions.
Yeah.
Thought I had figured out my quarterback for the playoffs. Yeah. No. Anyway.
Yeah. Well,
these 5 games coming up though. Like, I think a lot of people are kind of scared and a little bit nervous, but I'm kind of excited. Like, I think this is a team that's looking for the dare to be great situation. I think like they love to have their back up against the wall. Now their back's up against the wall. Now it's real. Now it's crunch time, and now to be able to come out and answer the bell. And we'll see if they come out and answer the bell, man. Like, I think this is where Pete Carroll himself thrives. This is where his philosophy, his kind of emotional connection to players really comes through. When he's got it, when he's got to reach it, when he's got to like get in the locker room and find a way to get everybody up for that game and to be on point for that game. I think it's gonna be exciting. Give me that gauntlet a couple years ago, 6 games, and they won 5 of 6 or 6 of 6. I mean, this is they're made for this kind of game. They're made for this kind of situation. I'm excited.
I think Pete Carroll has the team that he wants in this kind of a situation, and he will prepare them as best he can. Before we get into that, last time we spoke, we all parted after the tough Monday night game against the Falcons, and we went off to Thanksgiving. Russ went off to Japan-style Thanksgiving, which is just people deciding to eat turkey out of the blue. But Zeb, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. What was it like watching the Seahawks game with your family?
It's good. It's great. I always love watching the Hawks with my folks. My dad gets a little negative. Sometimes he kind of lives and dies with every play. So I got to kind of talk him off the edge every time, we get a 2-yard run, and that's, he throws his hands up. Oh. I'm like, hey, Pop, it's okay. It's just one play. It's fine. We got a lot of game left.
What were you thinking when you saw Eddie Lacy? Because Eddie Lacy, at the end of the day, he didn't have a great day, but he ran effectively a few times, and I think that's the most positive that we've seen out of the running game. He had 2 long gains of like 7 and 13 yards. That's where a bulk of his more than half of his yards came from those 2 plays. What did you think about kind of like the way that the Seahawks are playing? I mean, it wasn't a great defensive team, but they tried to stick to the run game. They tried and tried and tried.
I'm glad they did. I think, despite the fact that it wasn't super successful, I think just running consistently helps the rest of your team be successful. Lacey got 17 carries. That's, without looking up the rest of the season statistics, that's got to be the most for one guy since Carson went down, right? Or close to it, I would imagine.
Yeah, I believe so.
I was glad to see them kind of stick to it. And, sometimes you need a 1 yard gain and a 2 yard gain here and there just to make the defense know you're willing to run the ball. So I think it's important to do that. And despite not having major success, I was happy to see them at least give it a chance this week.
Ross, what about you? I don't know if you got to watch the Seahawks game with any family or friends because it's.
I don't have either, man. I watched the game alone in my office on a computer screen, man. And that's for the best. I'm not really good at watching games with other people. I'll make exceptions for Super Bowls, but I don't like generally to watch games with people because I watch them different from other people. I don't want to drink. I don't want to talk. I just want to see what's going on. And I sometimes have actually my notes out during the game. I'm taking notes. So I'm not very social. You don't want to watch games with me. If it's in the stadium, obviously it's different, but that's always why I have to rewatch the game when I get home so I can take out my notes and write my notes as I watch the game again. I don't know, man. Like that game, to be honest, this game, this past game, the 49ers, it really just had no impact on me at all. It was one of those games, like you said earlier, if you lose it, you've lost the season essentially, and if you win it, every win in the NFL counts, and every the other team's always the professionals, and we have all the cliches, and they get paid too, and things like that. But I don't know, man. It just didn't do a lot for me. Okay, we won. We took care of business. Now that we took care of business, now becomes part of the schedule that means something. Not that I was looking ahead. I just kind of had this sort of just want to get this game over with, and I want to win, and so I can see if the rest of the season is going to matter. That's how I felt. It's I can't get up. I can't get up for playing against beat hard Bethard. I can't get up for that. I just can't. I mean, Although I got to be honest, I was a little discouraged, like you were, for different reasons. The last touchdown they gave up, and to have it go to Garoppolo because the media's already blown this dude up, and he's the second coming of Jesus. Although he looks more to me like clipboard Jesus. Do you think he's if you were a chick, would you rather date Garoppolo or clipboard Jesus?
I would probably go with Garoppolo.
Yeah, I think Garoppolo's a better looking dude.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
I guess it just depends how much you're into hair.
Yeah, I mean, clipboard Jesus literally looked like Jesus. So I mean,
that dude, he was like a shampoo commercial.
Yeah, him and Troy Polamalu would make great Head and Shoulder commercials.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about the NFC West and good-looking quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Ever since Hasselbeck's been gone, they're good-looking now.
I thought Hasselbeck was very handsome.
Well, he's stealing my look.
Don't you remember that one black and white photo of him and Trent Dilfer, looking, shirtless in the?
Yeah, but everybody looks awesome in black. That's what I do. I take pictures in black and white. I look awesome in black and white sometimes. I mean,
we have a black and white photo on of the podcast of all of us, so
You do. See me?
Yeah, so let's get into it. Let's talk about the Seahawks and this upcoming week. And topic number one is the Seahawks are on the outside looking in as the 7th seed. Is this a playoff caliber team? Kind of a rhetorical question, but Ross, what's your take?
I suspect we are, but I'm looking forward to proving it. You're right. I mean, like I said, just a minute ago, we're about.
That's a good way to put it. I really like the way you phrase that.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect we are. But up to now, we've only played 3 playoff caliber teams, and we've only won 2 in those. But that's like Pete Carroll likes to say, you can't win the season even in the first quarter of the season. It's about to get real, right? One of our losses was to Green Bay. They're out of it now, so that doesn't even count anymore. it's all about to get real. It's all, I'm not saying like even this weekend is a must-win game to see whether we're playoff caliber, but it's all about how we play the Eagles, right? If we win, or if we lose, but it's close and we're only down by 3, I'm not going to be that discouraged. I'm still going to think the rest of the season we can make up some ground, and then we're talking, on the road and talking wild card, but I don't mind that. Sometimes you just have to do things the hard way, and they put it on themselves, and the injuries put it on themselves this year, so that's how it goes. But when I look at the talent level, I still don't see, like, I think we need a different defensive coordinator to get the most out of the team. Maybe an offensive coordinator. I'm finally on board with that as well. But with all the talent in the team, with all the Pro Bowlers, with all the All Pros, with all the Russell Wilson, the quarterback, you're always a threat, I think. And so put those together. And I gotta think on paper we're a playoff team still, even minus Richard Sherman, even minus Kam Chancellor, because again, there are teams that make them. I mean, how many All-Pro players do the Eagles have on their defense? Not nearly as many as we do. So you gotta think, like, if you can't make the playoffs with only 6, Pro Bowlers on your defense, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Zeb, what about you? What's your take on the Seahawks and their current seeding position and them being a playoff team?
I also suspect that they're a playoff caliber team. I suspect that. I have an inkling that that's the situation. I think that even though we haven't played up necessarily to our capabilities this season on a consistent basis, I don't doubt that this team could beat anybody else in the league. They're going to put up a fight no matter what. So, with that said, if they can beat anybody, then they can win in the playoffs, right? So,
yep.
I think that a lot kind of depends on this game coming up. Obviously, the Eagles are one of, if not the best teams in the league. So, for the Seahawks to lose to them wouldn't be a huge surprise. But if that is the case, if that happens, if the Seahawks lose to the Eagles, I pretty much feel like they have to win out to hope for any type of success or to even make it into the postseason. So this game's going to be super interesting. But I think we've seen time and time again that these guys get up for big games. There's no end to the fight in them. They will claw and scratch and do everything they have to be in the game until the waning minutes. So we've had some bumps along the way this season as well as the last couple, but I believe that this team is capable of making it to and winning in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the same boat. Like I said, I kind of think this is a rhetorical question. I do believe that the Seahawks are a playoff caliber team. I think there are questions about this year just due to the massive injuries and how much it takes to kind of overcome that. Losing your corner, losing your strong safety, losing various parts of your offensive line, losing your most capable running back who was a 7th-round pick. Those are all impactful to what the Seahawks want to do, and it's been a constant flux. But I look at the playoffs. They're the 7th seed. They're currently behind Atlanta, Carolina as the 2 wildcard spots, and then you have Philly, Minnesota, LA, and New Orleans as the top 4 divisional winners. All of those guys in the NFC South have to play each other 3 or 4 more times, actually, in the next 5 games. So that's potential. Even if they split that's going to give them a bunch of losses. So you give any of those teams an extra 2 or 3 losses, that helps Seattle potentially leapfrog and get up into the 6th, 5th, and potentially more if they can also take care of their games and take care of the Rams. So it's a weird position because the Seahawks have been here before. They've had to go on these huge runs to get into the playoffs before. This is not a new thing for them. I think it's kind of new for us because we've won the NFC West so many times. We've been a wild card as well. We've fought in the past 5 years. They've won the West 3 times. They've been a wild card twice. They've won a game every year, whether it's on the road or at home. It's a pretty impressive streak that they're on right now. I don't think this team is ready to stop. I don't think they're going to not give it their all or play well, but I think it is going to be a challenge to see if they have the ability to make those changes so much on the fly to put them in that position. I think a lot of what happened in that game against the Niners was they made changes and they got healthy. There was not a massive amount of penalties. They committed themselves to a running game. Russell limited his mistakes. Even as bad as that interception was in the first offensive play, the wind and the weather in that game was actually kind of crazy. So, that's an opportunity for Russell Wilson to, instead of always look for that big, deep shot, sometimes he's got to take what's given, and that's how other teams kind of beat Seattle sometimes. I think that's something that Russell Wilson needs to work on. But I am hopeful. I do think that this is a playoff caliber team, and I think that they are going to make the playoffs.
That's good optimism.
Yeah, after our therapy session last week, I gotta keep it high. I gotta keep those thoughts and prayers high for the Seattle team. They're not dead yet.
Not dead at all.
No. But actually, that kind of leads us into topic 2. So, if you have some carryover thoughts, feel free, because it does flow into topic number 2, and it is, what makes the Seahawks so hard to blow out? So, this tweet is originally from Shokapadia, and it is in the fourth quarter. In 113 out of 115 the Seahawks have led or have been within the score at some point in the fourth quarter. So over the past 115 games, only twice have they not been close in the fourth quarter or had a lead. Every game, so that's 113 games, that they've been leading or been within a score at some point in the fourth quarter. Now, obviously, those are losses in there, but that's a pretty impressive streak. Zeb, why is it so hard for the Seahawks to be blown out as a team?
That is an impressive streak, and I'd be curious to see how that compares to some other teams in the league, the Patriots, the Packers, for example, just to see where they're at statistically. But that aside, I think what makes the Seahawks so hard to blow out, or even to beat, really, is got to be Pete Carroll and his always compete mentality. I think his fieriness and his competitiveness goes through him into the players, and I think it just breeds that sort of mentality. Like these guys always believe they can win. They're until that clock hits 000, they believe they have a shot. They got to make the next play, do the next thing, and I think that coupled with the fact that I think they purposely bring in competitors. Not that there's, a bunch of guys in the league who aren't competitors, but I think you guys know what I mean. Like there's certain players that have that fire, and I think we kind of have maybe a larger amount of those type of guys on our team. So I think those two things make this team willing to fight until the very bitter end. In every single game, there's no quit. There's just no quit, and it's one of the things that has made this team so enjoyable to watch and to root for.
Yeah, Ross, what about you?
I think Zeb's nailed it on the head on a few of those kind of points. I mean, one of them, like you talked about, like the no quit aspect. They purposely go out and weed out the players that maybe you've got a lot of talent and you're positive, but can you make it through adversity? They seem to really, really look for players who thrive in adversity. And the thing is, it's not just that. It's that early on, some of these key players also had success with that. It became more than just words, right? They've had multiple games where even I, because of my past trauma with the Seahawks, thought they're out of it. Like they're down by 24, they're down by 20, they're down by 19 and a half. That's it. Like
they haven't scored any points in the first half of the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, so and Russell Wilson's already thrown 2 interceptions, and like for example, like we brought up Hasselbeck earlier, and he was one of my favorite players of all time. We've talked about that too, but he was kind of similar to sort of Dave Craig back in the day. Like you kind of knew by the first quarter end like what kind of day you were in for, right? If Hasselbeck's like 1 for 6 with an interception at the end of the first quarter, the game's done. That was kind of characters I thought of Holmgren's era, where it was a fine-tuned machine. But if it was missing oil that day, the fine-oiled machine was not going to run, and it wasn't going to go at all. Whereas the Seahawks, like, you can have a bad first half, and you're still in it. And it's not just words, because they've had those games where, that NFC Championship against the Packers, I was in the stands. I have my friends who are not Seahawks fans but are sympathetic to me, sending me texts and messages saying, hey, maybe next year, sorry, and we're still in the stands. It's still the third quarter we're watching, but my friends are all like, hey, man, next year, don't feel bad. Seahawks were pretty good this year. That wasn't bad. But then there's Russell Wilson saying, hey, why not us? Why can't we come back? We can do this. It's time now. And it works. And it usually works. So they look for that kind of player, I think. And like Zeb said, Pete Carroll's got that mentality and the coaching style that works for them. And they purposely go out and get the guys who are ready for that.
Yeah, no, for real. Zeb, so I looked up some information here for you. So in week 1 of this season, the Patriots lost 42-27 to the Chiefs. In week 2, the Green Bay Packers lost to the Falcons with Aaron Rodgers still playing 34-23. So in those 2 games alone, that's a 15-point and a 11-point loss for these 2 teams. So the Seahawks haven't lost by more than 8 points all year long. Yeah, they have 4 losses, but it's kind of crazy to think about, So
the only game I can think of was the Packers last year, where they beat us pretty handily.
And then the other one was the playoff game against Atlanta, and also I think it was 2 years ago when we played against the Chargers when they were still in San Diego. So that would have been, I think it was 2 years ago.
Even with the playoff game,
I think that was like a 10-point loss. Right?
But it was more. But that's not a single score. It's not 8 points.
Right. The playoff game against Atlanta, didn't we actually come back to within a score or close to it?
No, it was more than 10 points, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah,
last year we got waxed.
But I mean that's crazy to think about, and what makes it so hard for the Seahawks is that they believe with full conviction, and like Ross was saying, this is really a Pete Carroll thing. He is drafted and acquired with John Schneider. Players that don't give up, that don't lack this inner fire and this ability to kind of do the unthinkable. No one thought the Seahawks were going to win that NFC game against the Packers in 2013 or 2014. It was just unheard of. There was just, it wasn't our year. Too many interceptions, just not the right game plan. And, they had an interception with like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And it's like, all right, well, this game's done. Like, nothing's going to happen. And lo and behold, they come out of nowhere and score 2 touchdowns. So there's this weird mentality. And I think for fans, it's really hard because like we've said, we're used to these old pre-Russell Wilson Seahawks and Pete Carroll Seahawks that, if you're not in it in the first quarter, you're done. You're not going to come back and all of a sudden make a huge comeback and really win it. You can play with the lead and you can defend it, but you can't come back. So it's a combination of the philosophy and the getting these players, because what's interesting, this goes beyond the Russell Wilson era. This goes back to the Tavares Jackson era where they wouldn't get blown out. Credit to build that defense that keeps them in this game. Richard Sherman's alluded to it before his injury. It was like, sometimes the way that our team is built, the money's on the defense. We're the ones that's going to have to build it up. So I think it's really interesting. I'm not sure there's a really logical reason as to why that is the way it is, but I think it's great. I think it's awesome, and hopefully it's something that we continue to see.
I concur.
Yeah. And the comments about the Seahawks and just kind of this unique string of games that they managed to keep themselves in.
Well, I think we're lucky to be able to witness a streak like that.
I guess it's kind of dreadful, maybe knock on wood, but there is going to be a time where Seahawks are just going to get roped out and just going to get shut out, and it's going to be a really, really, really weird thing. Hopefully that's not
Well,
for
it's
a
happened
while.
before. It's bound to happen again, but no reason. No reason to think about that right now.
Yeah, it's not in the cards, but we'll see. All right, let's trudge along, and we're going to talk about topic number 3. So, topic number 3 is the Homer Corner, and Zeb, I'm going to kick this off for you here real quick. But is the Seahawks home field advantage a thing of the past? I mention this because they're not a home favorite for the first time in 5 years. They lost. They've lost 2 games already this year. Both of them, a field goal is the difference in these 2 games. It is, and we're not getting false starts. We definitely still have a advantageous crowd, but maybe the crowd has changed a little bit. What's your take on Seattle's home field advantage?
I mean, there's still a home field advantage, obviously, but it's not like before. And a lot of people like to talk about how the crowd's probably changed. It's become more like white collar. I don't even think that even matters that much. Because, 68,000 people is still 68,000 people. If the guy next to you is not yelling as much, I'm not sure how much that shows up. As long as, is there really a big difference? But I think part of it is people are used to it. It doesn't catch people off guard anymore. It used to be like people almost laughed about it or they didn't really believe it. And now people just take it as one. The world's become a much more scientific place. And people just prepare better. And people don't, this isn't 1995. People don't audible anymore purely by audible signals. They have all these hand signals. So if people have coped, people have adjusted. It's not and I feel like part of it actually lies with the players. If the players feel that they're unbeatable at home, then they are. If they don't feel it anymore, if they don't feel it, if they're not quite there anymore, it somewhat fades out, right? A lot of it's a kind of a mental game, a mental aspect to it. And part of it is a cumulative effect. And if you miss one thing, it's not like doing addition. It's sort of like multiplication. If you add up a noisy crowd plus an intimidating defense plus a quarterback that's young and reckless but under controlled reckless, those that's hard to overcome. But when the defense is now solid but maybe not as intimidating, and the crowds, maybe you're right, maybe it's lost a tiny bit of the edge, then you're kind of taking a lot off this like unsurmountable force. And so I don't still think it adds up to as much as what it used to. I still think it matters, and the record plays that out. So, we'll bear that out. But it's just, it doesn't, even when you're in the stands, you go to a lot of games as well, Sam, it doesn't feel like that anymore either, does it?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I split my tickets with a friend, so we have half a season each, and the games that I go to, I still see most of the same people that I've been sitting with in the same section. Obviously people in front of me and my friends that have season tickets along with me. But yeah, there's definitely, I feel a change in the people that come to the game just because, the Seahawks are a fun team to watch. And, it's always a fun thing to go to that stadium and to watch a game. But the aura of invincibility, I think, is definitely there. Is not there because teams know how to prepare better. They're not caught off guard anymore, like you were saying. Zeb, what about you? What do you think about the Seahawks home field advantage?
I think you guys are mostly right. I don't think the home field advantage has come to an end, but it's definitely not what it was. And I think, like Ross said, partially it's because Sam, you echoed the same sentiments that teams are more prepared for they're used to it now. They know what to expect a little bit. But I do think the whole white collar thing matters a little bit. I think once the price of tickets kind of got out of range for some of the the fans that would go in there and be more rabid and be more vocal, it has to have had some kind of effect on it. And I think what?
I mean, like, I feel like I think we're sort of just playing towards the sort of like anti-rich people sentiment that like rich people aren't gonna cheer and like.
No, I don't think that's true. But I think they bring their wives and their families and people that aren't necessarily so interested as much as they are just they're interested in the experience, but they're not football fans.
It's probably similar to that, but I also I wonder like how much like of a percentage of that is because since they've been good, I mean you can't. I mean, I've been trying to move my seats. I can't move my seats. I can't add a seat. The renewal rate of the season tickets is super, super high.
Yeah. Well, here's the other part of what I was going to say is I do believe that a lot of the same people go to these games week in and week out, and I think that the level of intensity, I think it's a lot to ask to maintain that over a decade or a decade and a half.
That I agree with. Like in 2012, 2013, 2014, when it was all brand new success and we were all kind of super hyper up for it, every place seemed amazing. Yeah, I mean now 5 years later, 5 years on, I think there's definitely something to that. That's a really good point.
Yeah, and I think that when you're used to when you get used to winning and you expect to win, then it's much easier to become deflated when things don't go your way.
Yeah.
So I think that probably all those things probably contribute.
I think Zeb, you bring up a really great point, and I feel that I wouldn't say victim, but I definitely kind of fall into that where, I have had season tickets since 2004, so this is my 14th year with season tickets. A year I lived abroad, so I didn't go to any games, but for the past 4 or 5 years, I've split my tickets with a friend, so we go to 5 home games each, for regular season and one preseason game each. So we get 2 tickets each game. That works out really well because instead of us always just bringing each other, what we have a chance to do is I can bring my wife. I brought my son to a game this year. I have a chance to kind of experience it in a different way. That's a different set of challenges in some regards because, like you were saying, Ross, like when you go to a game, you're like tunnel vision. You're focused on the game. Zeb, we got to go to a game together last year in the playoffs, and we're talking, but for the most part, we're just focused on the game, trying to get amped, trying to stay warm because it was really cold that night. But there is a change, and I think it's as this team aged, the fans age as well. It's hard to ask a 26-year-old to always be 26 in the stands cheering the way they did 10 years ago when now they're 36, and it goes the same when they're season ticket holders that are in their 40s and 50s. So,
shut up.
and it's not to say that just because you're older you can't do it because
no, it's true. It's true. Like I mean, I'm gonna make a confession. Like this year, I started rationalizing to myself. I'm like, you know what? As long as I'm noisy on first and second down, do I really have to stand for them? I'm making the same amount of noise, and like
I totally fell into that. Like, hey, the people in front of me are not standing, so I don't feel compelled to stand.
I'm still making noise, and like standing up doesn't make the noise any louder. So wait, why do I have to stand up for just to get down? Like I'm old. Like
I can say firsthand experience that the last 5 years, I just don't have the same energy as I did the 10 years before that. It's harder to put in 100% every single defensive snap over the course of a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, 2004 and 5 and 6, no sweat, right? But 2012, 2013, 2014, now I need a Vicodin after a game because I feel like I got the flu.
Yeah. Like I
am totally exhausted after games.
Like I remember the first 3 to 4 years of being a ticket holder, every day after a game, my voice was lost. Like I couldn't speak.
Same thing, gone.
But
I have a pretty weak throat to start with, so I'm always gone. Sometimes I'm gone by like half.
I went to a game with Best Fight Story, Leaf. You guys may or may not know from Seahawks.net back in the day. But he literally has to hold his head together because that's how loud he yells that his head's going to explode. You can see him holding his head together. It's amazing.
Focusing his head so that way instead of the sound coming out of his eye sockets, it's still channeling out his mouth.
Exactly.
But
a burst like I don't know what a Dragon Ball Z type situation or something like that.
I think what is interesting about kind of the home field advantage aspect is what I find myself doing, especially because we have a podcast, because we have a website. I definitely try and educate a lot more. Not lecture, not talk down to anyone, but kind of like say like, hey, this is my opinion of the way this is. This is why I think it's this way. Not saying anything is a correct, but it's just giving people perspective, especially when it comes to the game. And like, what irritates me when I go to the stadium, like, stop trying to do the wave. They're on offense. Shut up. Let them play. Those are things that I think you maybe try and help as you kind of get into that more older geriatric stage of being a fan, that you can't just like explode on every passing down if they get a whiff of the quarterback,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I spend a lot more time trying to get people to be quiet on offense, or just trying to like the manners and way of being a fan, and get off my lawn, and yeah, there's a bit of that.
I think the other thing that will be a change for us as fans of the Seahawks is they do have a very loyal following, and this is something that still kind of shocks me as someone who doesn't travel to see games. I know, Ross, you've had a chance to do this. It's always interesting to see them have a presence at away games. Like, this is something I still don't wrap my mind around, that there are all these Seattle fans that are living outside of Seattle that are going to games en masse, that they can actually make it so you can hear them on TV. It happened in this game against the Niners where there were Seahawk chants in the fourth quarter because
I could hear them in the 30. Like, it's pretty amazing.
So
I get aggravated at our stadium when I see like a ratio of even like 10-1, I start to get annoyed. It should be a rarity to me to like see opposing fans' jersey, but when it gets like 10-1, I start to get annoyed. But I can't even imagine there being so many opposing fans in a stadium where they could actually get a cheer going.
Like,
oh God,
the stadium that Seattle seems to do really well in and being able to get a huge crowd is Arizona. They always seem to have a huge presence in Arizona. I know you've been to a couple of really great games there, but like that's like a stadium where like you have no home field advantage. Like, you have no fan loyalty to your team at all.
Well, it's Phoenix, isn't it? I mean, like, nobody's from Phoenix, and then the people who are from Phoenix, they don't follow football, so it's just random. It's great because like when you go into the stadium in Phoenix, you already know, because there's just as many Seahawks jerseys walking in as Cardinal jerseys, and that's not an exaggeration. I mean, I have pictures I've taken where everybody in the picture is like a Seahawk. It's weird.
Yeah. For real. Well, let's talk about topic number 4, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles here. So, gentlemen, the Eagles are the best team, quote unquote, in the NFL. What has to happen? Are the Eagles the best team in the NFL? Question number 1. And then, what has to happen for the Seahawks to win? Zeb, what's your take on the Eagles? Have you had a chance to really watch them at all?
I've watched a few Eagles games this year. I have one buddy in particular who's a big Eagles fan. Shout out to Bishop I. I think they're the best team in the league. I don't think they're the best team in the league by much. What they've done, they haven't played the toughest schedule in the world, but what they've kind of done is put away the teams they have played pretty sufficiently. And I think that's what you got to do when you're playing, the Bears and the Cowboys and the 49ers, the Cardinals. They mollywopped those teams. For the Broncos, they like really just put it to them. And then you've got games against some better teams like the Chargers and let's see, what was another one they played? I guess the Chargers in particular. They lost to the Chiefs. But that was the beginning of the year when the Chiefs were good. I don't know what happened to them, but
and then they have a win over the Saints.
They're taking care of business in their division.
But sorry, Carolina. They have a win over Carolina. That's the only other team.
Yeah, they beat Carolina.
That's a 500 record or better.
And then they're blowing out the bad teams for the most part. Obviously with Washington, that's a pretty good rivalry there, and it's one of those kind of games where anything can happen in a division rivalry like that. But at this point, I think they're the best team in the league. I also think, however, that the NFC is a better conference. So when I feel like the other teams that maybe stack up against them with the Patriots and the Steelers, at least record-wise, I think the Eagles have a tougher road ahead of them just based on the teams that they're going to have to play in the playoffs. As far as the Seahawks go and what they have to do, they're going to have to stop Carson Wentz, who's proven at this point, I think, that he's the real deal, right? I don't think there's much question anymore. He's just played solid. He's just played well. He's putting up good numbers. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. They got some weapons. Their running game is interesting. I think the addition of Ajayi helps, but I don't know that he's done all that much yet. LeGarrette Blount obviously has been one of my favorite running backs over the last 5 or 6 years in a beast mode-esque sort of model. Alshon Jeffrey and what's his name, Aguilar, Nelson Aguilar. Those guys are both good quality receivers. I think it's going to be a big test to the Seahawks' dwindled defense at this point. I don't know a lot about the Eagles defensively. I don't know that they're anything crazy good, and I believe that our offense is at the point now in the season where they should be able to score some points. So I expect not necessarily a shootout, but a close game with some points scored. I don't expect it to be a defensive battle, but I think a win is ripe for the taking there. I think we just might be the guys to take down Goliath.
Good take. Ross, what about you? Are the Eagles the best in the NFL?
Yeah. I mean, we're always supposed to believe, like, Bill Parcells, like, imparted knowledge, right? You are what your record says you are. But I think there's some room for debate. But they look like they're real, for real. I mean, like I said, talking about Wentz, wow, did he develop between his first? I mean, they say that's the biggest jump between your first and your second year. That's when you make your biggest jump, and he certainly did that. And like you said, they got a good pair. Bringing in Jeffries is huge. Their tight end is their leading receiver, Ertz, and he's really good. Defense doesn't seem to have a lot of stars, but they've got. I'm torn on their defense. Like, they've got some good stats, but I wonder if it's a kind of a product of their offense being so good. Like, they have 19 interceptions on the year. That's more than double what the Seahawks have. But, I mean, when you blow out Denver 51-23 and you're playing against Simians, I mean, yeah, you're going to get a bunch of interceptions, aren't you? And when you blow out teams 37-9 and 31-3, those teams are going to be throwing the whole time, and you're going to get the sacks, and you're going to get the interceptions. So I'm not sure if their defense is on the same level as their offense, but I think their defense benefits a lot from that high-scoring offense. I mean, like, Wentz has the most TDs in the league, and they look really, really, really good. Like we've talked about, though, they've had a bit of an easy schedule so far. They're only 1-1 against teams with a winning record, but we can't talk. We have a record of 1-2 against teams with a winning record. So, I think this game is going to tell a lot about both teams, Seattle and Philadelphia.
Now, to be fair, the only reason why we have less teams with a winning record is because the Packers lost their quarterback. I mean, we lost to an Aaron Rodgers Packers team. We didn't lose to a Brett Hundley-led team, and
yeah, we beat lost. Yeah, we lost to the Packers when actually were the real Packers. Yeah,
and we beat a Deshaun Watson Texans team. We didn't beat a who is their quarterback, Tom Savage led Houston Texans team. So I get what you're saying. I agree.
Right, but
sorry to interrupt, but
Philadelphia didn't. But Philadelphia hasn't padded the record by playing the Packers after we played them with, like, when they were diluted. Like, they haven't played the Packers. They haven't played Houston. So yeah, we had to play teams against their best, and we've come out on the losing end a couple times. And Philadelphia's played teams that were, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple signs of hope looking at the schedule. Like they squeaked by New York Giants. They beat New York at home by 3. Washington, they beat them handily, but I don't think that was like as disparate as the score seems to say. We'll see. I'm not trying to disrespect them. They've looked legit from week 1. Them and the Rams have just made huge jumps this year, kind of unexpectedly.
That Giants game was pretty early in the season too. Before.
Yeah. But you hang your hat where you can.
Yeah. Well, what do you think it's going to take for the Seahawks to beat these Eagles?
I think it's an easy one. They have to just bring their A game, right? Come on, man. Say it. We all know.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you guys. I think you say yes. The Eagles are the best team in the NFL right now. A lot of it what I think it has to do is they're the most healthy team. They obviously they lost their left tackle, but they still have an excellent offensive line. And there are rumors that they were going after Dwayne Brown and they lost out to the Seahawks. So credit to us, even though we missed Dwayne Brown for one game due to an injury. But for the most part, they are super healthy. If you look at their injury report for Wednesday, it's kind of crazy because they don't have like huge people missing practice. They don't have to give Michael Bennett a Wednesday off and Earl Thomas a Wednesday off just to minimize their reps because they're playing so banged up. I think that gives them a clear advantage. But in the NFL, it's not for long. What happens in 1 week changes the next. You're the Houston Texans and you come off a high low where you lose, but your offense blows up and scores 38 points, and then your quarterback all of a sudden goes down for the whole year. I'm not saying that they're going to get injured, but I think the fact that they're healthy has put them in the best position to be a team. And, if the Seahawks were completely healthy, I think we would definitely be up there as well, the way that we could potentially play. That's what I think about the Eagles. And like you guys have said, this will be a good test for them because they haven't played anyone based upon the opponent's record. Seahawks and the Eagles have the same. The difference, like you said, Ross, we're 1-2. They're 1-1 versus teams with a winning record. In order for the Seahawks to win this game, though, I wish it were as simple as bring your A game. What I think it is they have to do what they did with the Niners, which is try to get something with the running game. Mike Davis is coming back. I was really excited to see what he could do in that Atlanta game, and I'm hoping that he'll be healthy and he'll be able to kind of add that kind of burst that we're missing. As good as J.D. McKissick is, I don't think he's a good in between the tackles runner. He's always kind of a outside the tackles toss kind of guy, which is good but for his skill sets. But committing to the run, having some semblance of like, hey, we're gonna get 2, 3, 4 yards every time we try and run up the gut. I think that will be huge. And the other big thing is, don't kill yourself with penalties. We predicted last week of over under of 10.5 penalties, and we were well under. I think we all picked over, but they only had 6 penalties that entire game, and that's huge. That's a 40+ % decrease in penalties. So at a minimum, that's anything from 20 to 50 yards that they're not giving away or hurting themselves. That's what I think is the biggest impact.
Do you think last week that was on us, or do you think that was on the officiating crew that we had?
That officiating crew is pretty shitty. I mean, they have a questionable. Rondé Barber questions the pass interference call against Doug Baldwin in the end zone when it looked like that was pass interference. Then you have the egregious non-call on the Tyler Lockett face mask, like right in front of the guy. I'm sorry.
I don't know how they...
Refs will never win. I'm sorry. Their job is insanely difficult. I'm not trying to take anything away from it, but that is the truth of the issue. They're insanely inconsistent, and that's true for every ref. But I do think Seattle helped themselves. Obviously, they probably got some no calls here and there, but if they can continue to get those no calls, and that helps Seattle. That can only help us.
Not totally. I think they've been working a lot, very hard on the penalties. So I think part of it was like fortune, but I think some of it really was on purpose. I mean, like the offensive line has had another few more weeks working together, and also like dealing with what to do when when your defensive lineman that you're blocking suddenly takes off in the other direction. What does that mean? Does that mean somebody's going downfield to just like let him go, or to hold, or like they're dealing better with like what it means when Russell Wilson scrambles and how to adjust your blocking to that for sure. If Fetty, again, he's going to have us 1 or 2 for cheating, but other than that, like it looks clean to me. They seem to adjust there. The wide receivers didn't have the stupid penalties where they moved before the balls moved. I think a lot of it was on purpose. So
And that garbage offensive pass interference call against McKissick. I mean,
Yeah, it was the most bullshit pick.
like everyone gets away with the pick play except Seattle. That's just the rule of thumbs. I'm sorry, like they should just take it out because we have a reputation, even though on the offensive side for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't have an answer to that. So.
Well, that's left over from Brocco G. What? Breno G. What was that guy's name?
Damn you, Giacomini!
That guy.
Giacomini.
That dude was good for like 3 personal fouls a game, so he's given us our reputation even on offense.
Yeah.
He really hasn't played with us for 2 years.
He was the best, though. I miss him.
I miss him. Like, we didn't replace him with anybody better. May as well keep him. If you're gonna have the penalties anyway from Effetti, I'd rather have Breno.
Yeah, that's true.
All
All right, well, let's carry on. So, fantasy update. So, first off, shout out to Zeb for the 3-game winning streak. Zeb is currently in 7th place.
Wow.
We have one more week in our fantasy league. And the update is I'm in 4th, Ross is in 6th, and Zeb is in 7th. Combined, we have won 6 games in a row over the past.
But if I'm not, I mean, he's 7th overall, but he's in the playoffs, right? Because it goes by divisions, right?
No, it's
on the
all by
outside looking
seeding.
in at this point.
So he's got if
It's by seeding. It doesn't matter what. Oh man, that's change the rules.
no, that's always the way it's been.
No, I said we should change the rules because now the 3 of us would be the representatives of Seahawks fan table in the playoffs.
That is true, but
You got to win your
it
game.
was
man. Who do you play?
we didn't. It wasn't a weighted schedule, so Zeb, I think you play Coleman. I want to say you have a pretty good matchup.
I'm gonna need somebody else to lose. Probably.
He's playing against Tony Russell last name.
Oh, okay.
And Tony sucks in this league, so he's got that. But it looks like he needs bye week to lose.
He needs
Scott.
no he needs Scott has to lose, and Scott's playing.
He's playing Bessie or whatever her name.
He's playing Laurel. Laurel's number 1.
Yeah, Laurel.
Red
Bessie.
Alice. She's the number 1. Apparently she's upset, so she might tank her team. So we'll see how that goes.
I hope she doesn't do that.
I don't know. You're gonna have to
dare
talk.
she?
You're gonna have to talk to her, Zeb.
Wait, am I in the play? Oh man.
You are in 6th
You
place,
win.
so you're in.
barely.
You win and in. That's all you need to do. So our fantasy question this week is: in any of your leagues, how lucky have you been this season?
A little bit lucky.
Zeb is a little bit lucky. I want to say earlier in the year that you've cursed many a player. So with a 3-game
sure,
winning streak, I'm sure you're feeling lucky right now.
Well, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure I've had weeks where I needed a guy to do something amazing, and it happened. That's happened at least once or twice this year. So yeah, I'm sure I've been considerably lucky on occasion.
Yeah.
Ross,
I've
what about
been-
you?
Well, I'm just going to talk about the 2 pay leagues, I guess. In the league I'm in with you, the pay league, the auction league that you invited me into last year, I obviously have been the beneficiary of some luck because I'm in 1st place.
Yeah, you know
all
who's
alone.
who's in 2nd?
What? You're in 2nd.
I'm in 2nd.
You've scored almost 150 points more than me, but you're in 2nd.
Yeah.
I've of the top 4 players, I've scored the least by far, but I'm in 1st place. So I've had some luck there. Although to be honest, I've had more points scored against me than Sam as well. But I'm going to talk about the other league, the foosball league we have. Man, I'm on the outside looking in, even though I've scored quite a few points, and I have a 3-game winning streak that has not moved me up in the standings at all. I am still in 8th place. At the beginning of my winning streak, I was in 8th place. So I'm kind of pissed off. And I've lost games in that league by 3 points, 2.5 points, and by 0.14 points.
And Ross, we're actually playing against each other this week.
I know. And if I beat you, I actually still have a good chance of getting in. But I'm So I need to beat you, but you're favored by 10 points. But if you put any stock of projection, but I'm really frustrated. Like I'm gonna miss out on the playoffs because of 0.14 point in a PPR league in a 10 yards as one. So like if one guy made one more step in one game, I would be in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's brutal.
So that's, I guess, not very lucky. And like again, just like last year, I lost my quarterback. I lost. This sucks. Yes. But anyway, I have not been very lucky in that league, but I'm still fighting. I'm still in it.
Yeah, I'm in the camp with you where I don't think I feel particularly lucky. I mean, the most wins I have in any of my leagues is 7, so I'm 7-5, 7-5, 6-6, and 5-7. So I'm slightly middle of the road in most of my leagues, but I'm in fourth and second place in 2 of the leagues that I'm 7-5 in. A lot of it's because those teams particularly just score well, which is great. But I, like you, Ross, instead of losing by 1 or 2 points, I've run into the issue where I score points to beat like 8 other teams in the league, and I happen to go against the number 1 scorer in the week. So I feel that I'm unlucky, but once it's playoff time, it's all out the window because things get crazy, and I hope my luck turns around. So that's my hope for the fan.
I hope so too.
I hope all of us. I hope all of us.
Foosball League.
Yeah, Foosball League. I hope I destroy you because I'd rather make the playoffs.
League, I hope you have the worst luck.
All right, let's get some predictions going on. So, Zeb, I'm going to let you go first. I feel like Zeb's got some good predictions this week. So, who is your winner and what's your score? Seahawks versus the Eagles.
Seahawks. Let's say 27-24.
Nice, Ross.
See, last week I said this might be the week I predict the Seahawks not to win. But the more I've looked at it this week, I don't think the Eagles are as amazing as they look like at first glance. And I feel like we've turned a couple corners here, so I'm going to go. It's going to be high scoring. I don't think there's a way of slowing them down, but I don't think they can slow us down either. I mean, they're vulnerable at cornerback. I'm just feeling it. I'm going to go 31-28.
Wow, big score.
Yes.
Yeah, so last week I predicted a 2-0 score, so Bobby didn't get that safety. He almost had a touchdown, but I have a hard time picking the Seahawks this week. Obviously, we're a Homer podcast. We're all Seahawks fans, but I'm just not sure. I think of the next 5 games, this is the game that I have the biggest concerns about, and I think we lose. Probably like 27-20. It's I think the only time I predicted the Seahawks to lose this year, and it's just I think the Eagles are more balanced. I think they're healthier. I think that gives them an advantage. And I hope I'm wrong.
That's all true.
I hope I'm wrong.
Are you going to the game?
No, I traded these tickets so I could go to the opener with my dad.
Fair enough.
Well, and no one knew the Eagles would be this good.
Yeah. This wasn't the game I had circled. I had the Atlanta game.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's do some more predictions. All right, so Zeb, over under the Eagles rushing 175 yards. They've averaged about 250 in the last 2 games.
Under, way under.
All right,
Not against these dogs.
Ross.
Under.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say under too. I mean, I know they're beating up on the teams they should be beating up, but I still think Seahawks run defense has gotten so much better from those first 2 games that we saw. On the flip side, Seahawks rushing over under 100 yards, and this includes Russell Wilson.
Over.
I'm gonna say under. I think we're not going to be able to run a lot. I think we'll see more screens, but that's going to substitute the rushing game. But I don't think we're going to rush for a lot.
We got Mike Davis back, right?
Mike Davis is good to go.
My God, the legend of Mike Davis just goes on and on and on. He had 6 runs for 18 yards, right? 6 runs, 18 yards. That's
but he had 2 catches for 38 yards.
Yes, but but McKissick has like a 30-yard touchdown reception. I mean, like, my gosh, the level of Mike Davis took off immediately.
Mike Davis's dad drew Garfield.
It's a different Davis, but we'll just give it to him. But Ross, to your point, J.D. McKissick hasn't scored since like week 3.
Mike Davis has never scored.
I would still say that Mike Davis might have a little bit more of an impact.
How many 2-score games does Mike Davis have?
How many games does Mike Davis have?
Exactly.
Well, with Seattle, just that one, but He played with the Niners.
I mean, maybe he's awesome. It amuses me that even more so than in like the preseason, like it's not just like here, like everywhere you go, like Mike Davis, Tony was like Mike Davis, he was going to be awesome. He had 6 runs for 18 yards. Like it was like a totally small sample size. He had a couple good runs, he had a couple really bad runs, but like all of a sudden, it's like the legend of Mike Davis.
He matters.
But
he looks like a more patient Rawls.
Yeah, but the other thing is, even though it's only 6 attempts, those 6 attempts look better than the 6 attempts that you give to Eddie Lacy or to Thomas Rawls.
I want to flip him at McKissick. I don't care, man. If they're going to give the 80 Lacy 17 carries, I want 17 carries for McKissick now.
But the thing is, McKissick's not going to run in between the tackles. Mike Davis has.
Oh no, neither is anybody. It's 2017.
Mike Davis will.
I know. We'll see. We'll see Sunday night. What's that?
Mike Davis is 11 feet tall, 680 pounds.
No, Mike Davis doesn't do push-ups. He does earth downs.
All right. Predictions for passing TDs. Who has more passing TDs, Russell Wilson or Carson Wentz?
First name Russell, last name Wilson.
I'm going to go with Wentz on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Wentz. I think I've got both of these guys as my quarterbacks in like two out of my 3 leagues, or 3 out of my 4 leagues. So I think Wentz is going to have more than Russell will.
I think it's going to be like 3-2, but I think we're going to have more rushing TDs.
Seahawks only have 4 rushing TVs all year, so I don't know where they're coming from, but
Mike Davis.
Maybe.
Why was on the practice squad?
Yeah.
They still count because he's Mike Davis.
All right. So this one's a little bit obscure one. So this to explain, the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, Doug Peterson, is from Ferndale, Washington, which is one of the most northern cities. It's not the most northern city in Washington, but it's one of the. It's where Doug Peterson is from, so he's actually Washington homegrown guy. He actually lived here for more than his birth. Also, where Jake Locker is from, former UW quarterback and Tennessee Titan quarterback. How many mentions are there going to be about Doug Peterson being from the state of Washington? Over under 1.5.
Are these individual mentions of the word Ferndale, or are we talking like occasions where
if they bring it up? Like how many times do they bring up the topic?
Yes, we're going with that.
Under. I say 1 time.
Is there anything in Ferndale besides? Well, is there anything in Ferndale?
There's an entire dale of ferns.
It's just a regular city.
Like, if there's anything at all, like, because I feel like they might do like one of those little stupid specials, like where they go and visit the high school or something. They show like the camera. No, probably not. It's only a mid-season. Oh, it's Sunday Night Football. I'm going to go over. I'm going to go 2 because I think they are gonna do a little whole like. This little town in northern Washington, Jake Locker and Doug Peterson, the failed quarterback.
Yeah, I was initially going to go with the Zeb and say it was going to be like 1, but Ross, you sold me. They're going to talk about him being from Ferndale, and I could see them doing like a quick expose, like have him go up to like the high school and talk about this is where he's from. So I'm going to say
some
over.
Stock footage.
I'm going to say over. Show him the field that he probably never played on, but Jake Locker played on.
Well, I mean, Doug Peterson used to be a quarterback.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, he was a quarterback. He was like a backup quarterback mostly.
Ferndale, sometimes referred to as Cream City, is known for well-preserved Victorian storefronts on Main Street and homes throughout the community.
There's no way you could just Google that.
Which are also known as butterfat palaces due to their construction, wherein considerable wealth was generated in the dairy industry.
Zero. There is a 0% chance you're not reading like their tourist site. No, but that makes me even more confident. Like if they've got like a little picturesque downtown, like there's gonna like be some stock footage of that. There'll be a little couple pictures of the high school, and maybe some pictures even of like Jake Locker's.
No way, Ross. You're out of your league on this one. There's absolutely no way they delve that deep into Ferndale. Absolutely,
dude. They are. They're gonna do it. It's gonna be 2.
We'll find it Sunday night.
Dude, there's gonna be like a little trophy case like in the damn gymnasium, and it's gonna be like Jake Locker's little picture in there.
That's probably true. That'll probably happen.
Yeah. All right. Over under on Ifedi penalties 2.5.
Under.
Ooh, our boy's
2.5. See, if
learning.
it was 1.5, it'd be hard. But 2.5, I mean, he kind of maxes out at 2 a game, doesn't he? 2 under.
I'm gonna say he's gonna go over. He's gonna get some stupid false start, and that's why we're gonna lose 20-27.
Unless I'm wrong, I don't think the Eagle defensive ends don't seem that awesome to me. They have a defensive tackle, I think, with 7 sacks though.
Yeah, from the interior, that's huge. But I think Jokel and Posick and Britt as a unit will play well together. I mean, but we'll see.
I hope he punches a guy like Crabtree.
Hey, it's a 1-game suspension apparently. That's all you get. So
I don't think Crabtree should be suspended at all. The more I read about it.
No,
I thought they got 2 games.
They got 2, and then it got dropped to 1. But they should have been suspended for 2 because they carried on. They calmed him down or stopped him and separated, and then they went back at it again.
Yeah,
so.
but dude, premeditated stole from him.
It's true.
Yeah, but why are you wearing a chain on the field, man? Crabtree.
That's like why are you wearing a skirt when you go out? Well, that's why you got raped.
No, it's not that. It's he taped it down to his chest, knowing that.
That's not true. That's like a rumor, apparently.
There's
Really?
at least 2 or 3 guys on the Seahawks who wear chains, also. So this isn't like a random.
Oh no, it's totally a thing that a lot of players do. But
I forgive chains more than I forgive like really long dreadlocks, dude. That's just asking for trouble.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Blair Walsh misses over under 1.5. He's missed 5 of his last 10.
He'll probably miss 1 under.
I'm gonna say he's gonna miss. I'm gonna take the under, but it's gonna because they're not gonna give him that many chances. They kind of seem to have lost confidence in him. I've lost confidence. I was like a bit of a Blair apologist by midseason, but now I'm kind of like down on him.
Yeah, I was rooting for him. I'm gonna say he's gonna go over. They're gonna eventually gonna start putting themselves in positions where they're gonna start punting or going for it on 4th down because they can't kick. But I think this game, they're still gonna try it out. It's a home game. They think that they'll be able to recover. But
if you're a dude and you're named after a character on Facts of Life, you're just gonna be that good.
Hey, there are Walshes out there that are very well respected.
I mean, you can't name your guy Blair.
Yeah, the Blair hurts, but if his name was Bill Walsh, we would love him because we're like, oh, that's a football name.
All of these, like, it's his name, right? He's like, he has no confidence. He's got a mental problem, not because of that field goal in the playoffs. It's because of his name.
Well, if his last name was Underwood, he'd be plenty confident.
All right, and our last prediction for
last name was a witch? What if it was Blair Witch?
Then he would be the fan of many players.
And then like in school he probably had like a project that was like the Blair Witch project. Yeah.
All right.
Well, which Blair are we going to see this weekend? That's what's important.
Yeah. All right. Last prediction for the day. It's yes or no. Tight end techno dance in the end zone. Yes or no?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's ridiculous.
I'm kind of over it, but I mean,
you can't be over it.
The funniest thing I've ever seen, well, not ever. The funniest thing I've seen this year, totally, is like Russell Wilson being totally into playing the invisible flute.
That's
like I'll never get over that. I will never get. That's the like totally into it. Like, he's like skipping and
no. The counter to that, and yes, they are going to see the techno tight end dance, but the counter to that is Doug Baldwin giving it the minimum amount of effort and saying, "All right, we're done here. We're carrying on."
Seriously, he gives it like 0.7 seconds of being into it and just like walk away going, okay, you guys are my teammates, so I'm doing this, but as soon as I can, I'm out. Jimmy
Graham is the all-time Seahawks leader in touchdowns and yards. And this is in essentially 2.5 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, he's got how many? 8 touchdowns in the last 7 games. It's ridiculous. I hope he keeps it up.
Yeah, me too. He's on my team.
I kind of feel bad though because I feel like he's taking touchdowns away from. I feel like people are gonna like start forgetting a little bit about angry Doug Baldwin now because he's not gonna have the stats this year, is he? Even though like Wilson's throwing for more yards ever than ever, like, yeah. he's going to lose some stats. He's losing some touchdowns, and I don't care about the numbers, but except for the fact that that's how you do get like national recognition. And I worry about the long-term effects for Baldwin now that all touchdowns must be thrown to Jimmy Graham.
Hey, whatever he had to do to win, man.
I think Doug appreciates winning more than he appreciates his stats, but I do think that is a potential concern. Maybe not now, but in the future.
It's not the stats themselves. It's just like if you know, like Doug Baldwin finally got national recognition, and people started like talking about how good he is because of the 14 touchdown year. Like even though he'd already been really, really good, that 14 touchdowns put him on the map.
Yeah.
And then like now that he's gonna have like 960 yards this year and like 5 touchdowns or 7 touchdowns. People are going to think he's like Rashard Matthews or something. They're going to stop talking about him. I feel bad because like long term, like what that's going to mean for him, it actually will have ramifications, especially like for what he wants to do post career and things. And yeah,
he's not all that far behind where he was last year.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it feels like a lot less, doesn't it? I mean, like
really,
percentage wise, he is because Russell Wilson's throwing a lot more.
Yeah, I mean he's.
But Wilson's also like spreading it out. It's not like our only receivers are Jimmy Graham and Doug Baldwin this year. Like Paul Richardson's made huge impacts. J.D. McKissick's getting a bunch of yards.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Like I kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's great. I want to win. I want everybody to do awesome. I just worry that Doug Baldwin and then is going to be a very underrated person. Maybe that was inevitable because unless he makes a really, really long career, because then he could be like, who is that Pittsburgh Steelers dude?
Hines Ward?
Yeah. Unless he can sort of like pull the longevity that long and like pull the Max Strong, you're just awesome because you've just been around for that long.
Hey,
like
I'd be all for that.
Like Max Strong. Yeah, so am I.
Well, he's got 3 touchdowns in the last 6 games. He only had 1 in the first 5, so things are trending upward for him.
Well, how many yards does he have, though? He had like 2 catches last game.
698, 700 yards. He's had.
But I mean, the last couple of games, though, he's weighed. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if he averages like 75 yards, 75 yards in the next 5 games, he'll be there. He'll be over 1,000.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm just worried about Doug, man. I'm just Doug.
I feel
you. I love Doug.
I feel you too. Gentlemen, that's our podcast. Shoutouts.
Yeah, shout out to Bishop. Green is not godly this week. The Eagles are going down. Go Hawks, and go ahead and check out triplebpodcast.com.
Ross?
Shout out to my cat's doctor who's doing his best to keep him alive.
Shout out to Blitz's doctor.
And I don't have a joke to go along with that.
All right.
Godspeed, cat doctor.
Thoughts and prayers. We are the Seahawks Fan Table Podcast. I am Sam. They are Ross and Zeb. Thank you for checking us out. Check us out at Facebook at Seahawks Fan Table. We're on Twitter at Seahawks Podcast. Check out hawkscast.com. We just posted the new Infinity Wars trailer, so if you don't know how to use the internet, go to Hawkscast, and we got it there for you. But gentlemen, yeah, it's gonna be an exciting game. Regardless of the outcome. We'll be all paying attention. We're going to love it. And go Hawks.
Go Hawks.